are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Big 12 podcast today, brought to you by BetOnline and BetOnline.net. Today it is the 27th of February, 2022, and we had a wild day of not just Big 12 basketball, but college basketball yesterday, all across the Big 12. Huge results happening everywhere. We'll break them all down on today's show. All right, let's get into it here. I'm going to be light on videos this week because I'm in the Dominican Republic with my family on vacation. They were very gracious. My young podcasting ass could not afford this, but luckily my family dragged me along for the ride. So going to have episodes, we're going to be light on videos this week, but a massive day of Big 12 basketball. Go across the results yesterday. The Texas Tech TCU game was decided by 3. Texas West Virginia was decided by 1. Oklahoma State was decided by 4 in overtime. Iowa State and Kansas State was decided by 1. Baylor and Kansas was decided by 10, but it was a 3-point game with around 2 minutes left. So that score not indicative of how close that game was. This was a spectacular day of college basketball, but of especially Big 12 basketball. Once again, 3 one-possession games, 1 4-point game, a 10-point game that was within 2 with 3 with 2 minutes left to go in the game. This was everything you wanted to see from a college basketball Saturday in the Big 12 and across the country. But we got the results from yesterday, and it's worth mentioning when you go across the top 25, what happened at the top. Gonzaga lost to St. Mary's. Colorado beat Arizona by 16. Auburn, number 3, Auburn also lost. So 1, 2, 3, 4 Purdue lost. 5 Kansas lost. 6 Kentucky lost. Number 7 Duke did roll, so I think we're going to see them find their way up at the poll this week. Texas Tech at number 9 in the country also lost as well. So there were plenty of upsets to go around, especially in the top 10. And I think as we were getting closer to the end of the season, we were thinking, all right, we've got a group at the top that's crystallized that shows that they're all, championship worthy. Well, they all took a tumble. Now, they're all still championship worthy, but it does make us question, hey, what are those cracks? But maybe it's also a positive thing. Maybe it does show that there are some issues a lot of these top teams have, and they need to get them addressed before they go into the NCAA tournament. So let's get to the Big 12 hoops. But first, quick word from our sponsors. Today's show is brought to you by BetOnline and BetOnline.net. You guys go to BetOnline today. Check out all of the news, scores, and odds that you could want. They've got a new sleek interface. You can join on your mobile device. You guys can also join on your tablet. You guys can join on your computer, Mac or Dell. It's very easy to access, just to be 21 or older. And you guys can get on there, BetOnline and BetOnline.net. They've got UFC, they've got boxing, they've got NASCAR, they've got Formula One, everything you could want, including Vegas casino games as well. Once again, that's BetOnline and BetOnline.net. Let's start with the big game. Kansas and Baylor. Baylor wins 80-70. Look, this was a win I did not see coming. I thought Kansas right now is peaking. I thought Baylor was going backwards due to just the number of injuries that they've had. And they got smacked around early on in this game, but rallied back. And for them, the guy that I've been mentioning a lot that needs to step up is Jeremy Sohan. They are only playing 7 players right now. And Fran Fraschillis the other night, he doesn't think James Akinjo is healthy. Well, take a look. 37 minutes, 2 for 10 shooting. Did not look like the standard James Akinjo that we're used to. But Sohan off the bench, 17-5. And while Flo Thamba to me was the big story, and we'll get to what that means for David McCormick here in a little bit, this is the guy off the bench because of the talent, the immense talent. He is the guy that's going to have the ability to swing this Baylor season. When I say swing it, I mean, if they have any ideas of getting back to the Final Four, it's going to have to be like this against top-tier competition basically every game. Maybe in the first round of the NCAA tournament, they might be able to get away with, not great play, but because the group is so few at this point, and they're relying on so few guys, there just has to be, you can't really have an off night. And I thought this was a great game from Matt Meyer, who almost had a double-double as well. Flo Thamba, 18-9, going up against David McCormick, who had 10 and 13, but this was not an impressive night for him. I thought defensively they did a good job on him. I thought late he wasn't having the impact on the offensive glass and around the boards that I think that Kansas anticipated it. Mitch Lightfoot got himself into foul trouble, so they really couldn't rely on him a whole lot in this game. Remy Martin did come back, but for them, David McCormick is going to have to start coming up bigger and bigger spots because we've looked at this. We looked at it last week. We talked to Anthony DeBundo, who works over at Action Network, about those favorites, right? Auburn has two guys who are massive. I know Jabari Smith plays on the wing, but Walker Kessler inside is a difference maker. Jabari Smith still can play in the post some because of his his size. Obviously, the two-headed monster over at Purdue. Drew Timme and Chad Holmgren over at Gonzaga. Kentucky's got obviously Oscar Tshiebwe, former West Virginia Mountaineer. All of these teams feature elite big man play. And that's what they rely on oftentimes. I know some of them can get away with not having the best because they've got so much talent elsewhere. But really, what makes the engine go and what's made them so dangerous, maybe save Purdue because Jaden Ivey is so spectacular, is the size that they have. How much have we talked about Tshiebwe and we've talked about Walker Kessler this year? Those teams are really driven by their big man play. And so this is where we said, okay, Kansas, on the perimeter, most teams can't match up with you. With Wilson and Harris and Brown and Abaji. And look, those guys didn't play very well yesterday. Jalen Wilson was 2 for 10. His three-point shot just not there, especially last night. Ochai Abaji had scored 27, but he was 8 for 22. They kind of needed that because nobody was really that efficient besides Christian Brown last night. He was 6 for 13, still not that efficient. The big man play, like even if Remy Martin comes back and looks really good, this is not a team where the guard play is so elite. Like Baylor last year, for example, Flo Thamba was good. JTT was really good. But really, I mean, when you've got three pros in the perimeter and three guys with that much experience, three killers like Butler, Teague, and Davion Mitchell, the Kansas guys are not at that level on the perimeter. They're at a high level. They're a very high level, but not that level. And also the missing puzzle piece for those guys is the interior play of David McCormick, and getting toasted by Flo Thamba, and good on him. He played an excellent game for 18 and 9. That can't happen for them in the NCAA tournament. That's a loss, like it was in this game, because we saw it. All the pressure then falls on their shot makers to keep banging in shots and nailing them late, and that makes it very difficult. And look, this team on defense just is not at the level that we expect Bill Self teams to normally be at. They're just not there yet. So KU as the kind of title contender, we have to reassess that. Baylor, on the other hand, if you want to make the case that Baylor should go up to the 1 line, you can. Joe Lunardi had them as a 2 seed going into the day. Well, all of your ones lost. So how do you want to value their losses against Baylor's win? Well, I think Baylor has a case to get on the 1 line. I'm not sure I'm 100% in, but if you want to say, okay, your 4 1 seeds yesterday, and then Joe Lunardi does not have his bracketology updated just yet. Last date it was 225. Your 4 1 seeds are Gonzaga, Arizona, Auburn, and Kansas. Well, you could flip Baylor for Kansas. Your 2 line right now is Kentucky, Purdue, Baylor, and Duke. So Duke is going to have a case to jump up there. I think if you see a team make the leap to a 1 seed, maybe it's Duke because they beat the hell out of Syracuse yesterday, and they're looking pretty good right now, save that loss they had to UVA pretty recently. But I think there is a case for Baylor to get in the 1 line. I think there is a lot of sentiment, too. Whoever wins the Big 12 tournament is going to get on the 1 line, but I actually don't think it's Baylor. I think Baylor's better off. It could be, but I think Baylor's better off if they don't make that run in the Big 12 tournament. I think they're actually just better off if they if they get some more rest, because this team is banged up. And look, what do they have to prove? What does Baylor have to prove to anybody in the Big 12 tournament? What do they need to get right, maybe? But this was the best version of this current Baylor team. Now, LJ Cryer, I don't know if we're going to see him back, but I think all things considered, and I've said this a bunch, all things considered, Scott Drew is doing one hell of a job at Baylor this season, dealing with all those injuries, dealing with what they lost. For them to be a half game out, to be on a 3-game winning streak, to win 5 of their last 6, they're in position to make a run at the Big 12 championship. Once again, only a half game back. They've got 2 to play. They're at Texas. They got Iowa State, so 2 difficult challenges coming up. But they are right there in the thick of this thing. KU's got at TCU, TCU at home, and Texas. So, this can be interesting the rest of the way. If I believe Kansas goes 2-1, they'll be in good shape. They'll be able to win it. Yeah, because you think if Baylor goes 2-0 and Kansas goes 2-1, they give the half game back in that situation. But I think they'd be tied at the top, and I think KU's got the tiebreaker. If I am correct, I'm not 100% positive, but they could tie for the season title. We'll see. But yeah, the fact that he's got them in the mix with a week to go is astonishing this season. So all credit to them. Fun game last night. It was kind of the crown jewel. It was an excellent day of college hoops. But also around the Big 12, the second biggest result had to be TCU over Texas Tech, because there was a lot of conversation happening. I worked last week on the Pac-12 channel at SiriusXM. A lot of people were looking at the bubble and seeing those teams and saying, all right, Rutgers has got a lot of good wins. Michigan, they're vulnerable. Carolina feels like they're trending towards being in. A lot of people picked out TCU as a team on the bubble that could be had, right? With the stretch they've got coming up. They had to make a statement. They did yesterday. 69-66. TCU gets over the hump, and they get a huge win against Texas Tech. They have been playing a really difficult part of their schedule, but this win gets them at 18-9, 7-8 in the conference. This was the Mike Miles show. This was the best game I think he's played all year. 38 minutes, 10 for 15 from the floor, 3 for 6 from 3, 5 steals, 4 assists, 4 rebounds, only 2 turnovers. They gave him the ball. They said, go win us a game, and he did. And that is difficult against this Texas Tech team, man. But this is kind of the way you beat them, right? Somebody, when you're playing these really strong defenses, somebody's got to step up. Unless your ball movement is pristine and perfect, it's going to be tough to beat teams like Texas Tech. And TCU shot 50% from the floor, 37.5 6 for 16 from 3. Really bad from the line, which they overcame. But because of the play that they got in this game from their defense, number one, and also then on offense from Mike Miles, that was the absolute difference maker. It was 110% the difference maker in this game. Kevin McCullough was back for Texas Tech. He played 22 minutes, came off the bench, shot 5 times. So, they inserted TJ Shannon now in the starting lineup. Bryson Williams just continues to get better. I think with the way this Saturday went down, if you're one of those people that believes that a big man should be on the all-conference team and thinks that, it should be constructed like an actual basketball team, I think Bryson Williams is starting to kind of lock up being the big man. This guy just gets better and better. He's one of their best three-point shooters. He was 8 for 9 yesterday, had 21 points, 2 assists and 3 rebounds. Now, rebounding numbers weren't there, but it didn't really have to be. The problem for Texas Tech yesterday was the turnovers. They did not take good care of the basketball. They shot 58% from the floor and still lost the game. When that happens, what does that mean? Normally, the number of possessions that you had was limited, and that was the case here. The 20 turnovers, once again, if you can take 5 off of that, if you can take 7 off of that, that's 7 extra possessions, and the way they were shooting the basketball, maybe it would have come down, regress some, but the numbers say if they had a few extra shots in this game, they would win. Still feel very good about Texas Tech. The key for them, getting McCullough back, fully healthy. There are a lot of difficult road games in this conference, so I'm not too concerned about Texas Tech and where they are right now. I still think they're a really awesome team. I think they've gotten so much better compared to where they were in the beginning of the season. The big story here to me, TCU getting a win, solidifying their position on the right side of the bubble. I think we're going to see them maybe come off Lenardi's next 4. He's got the last 4 buys. That's where he's got them right now. Let's see if Jerry Palm has updated his bracketology and where he has TCU at this point in time. He's usually very good about doing. I think he did. Let's check this out right here. Yep, updated at February 20. No, he's still on the 25th. So we'll see where Jerry Palm ends up putting TCU as well. But what a result for the Horned Frogs. Had to have it considering how difficult the schedule is for them remaining. At home for KU, that is on March 1st, so that's going to be on Tuesday. Then on the 3rd, they're at KU. So home for KU, at KU, and then on the 5th, they've got, which is next Saturday, they've got West Virginia on the road. So they're going to play 3 difficult games this week. I know West Virginia is not that good, but still, after playing Kansas twice in 5 days, to have to go on the road to finish out the season, that is going to be an extremely interesting challenge for them. We'll see where they are. But this was a win, I think, kind of punctuates things for them. If they go 1-2 the rest of the way, if they get that win against West Virginia, I think they'll still hold firm onto that spot in the tournament. So this was a massive result for them in terms of their bubble and their prospects for getting in the NCAA tournament. All right, one more quick word from our sponsors today. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Built Bar and Built.com. You guys go over to Built.com today. You guys can order from their extensive line of Built Bars. They've got mint brownie, coconut almond, and new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. They're all delicious, and the new flavors are coming out all the time. If they think a flavor might be good, they'll make it. It will be delicious, and it'll be good for you as well. Go to Built.com today. That's Built.com, promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15, LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, next I want to go to Iowa State, 74, Kansas State, 73. In a game that Kansas State absolutely had to have, Iowa State goes on the road and gets this thing done. If you go to the net rankings, you'll go check out Iowa State. Nobody has been living in the first quadrant like Iowa State. They've played a million quadrant 1 games this season, and they've come out on the right side of them quite often. This is a team that's racked up. Let's see, trying to find right here. So they're 29. They're in quadrant 1 games. They're 9-7. They've played 18 quadrant 1 games out of their 29 available games. They've also played 4 in quadrant 2 as well. So this is a team that when they play everybody, it's mostly, I'm trying to look right now, I can't find a team that's played more quadrant 1 games this season up and down, especially the top. I really can't find any. 9-7 in quadrant 1. This is another one of those. They're 4-5 on the road, but this is a massive win to get to 20 wins. Did anybody think 20 wins was possible after the calamity that was last season? I certainly did not. And for them to be last place in the conference a couple weeks ago and go on this big run, it's been tremendous. There's no doubt that Isaiah Brockington is a first-team All-Big 12 player, making the argument for Big 12 Player of the Year. And if it's most valuable player award, put that in quotations, you're going to make the argument, obviously, the most valuable player to their team this year has been Isaiah Brockington to Iowa State. But he's going to be on first team. This was that massive win they needed. It was a really weird game because Nigel Pack was just going absolutely berserk, but nobody else could really help him out. Noel goes 1 for 7. Smith goes 3 for 7. McGurl goes 2 for 8. Off the bench, those guys only made 3 shots out of the 10 that they attempted. So it was a Nigel Pack show, and it kind of begs the question, he's going to put up his numbers, but I guess the other guys have to come through too. But it's really hard to win games sometimes when you're so reliant on one player. He also went 6 for 9 from 3, so this is just one of those games where he was absurd. Noel got to the free throw line 16 times and made 14 of them. So there's the hours in the gym paying off for you. So they kind of got some decent numbers from their big guys. You combine it all together. Let's see, I'm doing the math in my head right now. 48 from Noel and Pack together. They got 60 from Noel, Pack, and Mark Smith. So, that's all you can ask for from those 3 guys, I guess. Noel going 1 for 7 is fine. 14, if you go 14 for 16 from the free throw line, I guess that kind of evens those things out. But yeah, this was a nip and tuck game the entire way. The last matchup was close, and that one went to overtime, and it felt like those 2 teams were heading in different directions then, but each one of them gets a win on each other's home court. It'll be interesting to see if these 2 teams match up again in the Big 12 tournament, but I think any conversation about the demise of Iowa State is now in the rearview mirror. TJ Otzelberger did a great job of getting that thing turned around, and so I think we all agree Mark Adams is going to be the Big 12 Coach of the Year because of the situation, the uncertainty surrounding Texas Tech, and to come in there and do that. But TJ Otzelberger's argument is just as strong considering all the factors that he had to deal with. The coaching of this conference is absolutely ridiculous. There's an argument to make that Bill Self's coaching job this year is not excellent, considering the amount of talent they have. You'd argue, hey, look, they got a lot of guys from last year's team that actually got better So their performance this year is impressive. Or you could say, look, those guys should be getting better. This team is still talented. They did add guys like Remy Martin, who didn't play a lot, Jalen Coleman-Langs, Joseph Yesufu, and they should be better than they are. Their defense is not as good, but they might win the Big 12. So you could say that, hey, it feels like they should have won this thing going away, all things considered. So he's not in the mix. But Scott Drew, hell yeah, I would hear an argument for him. So with the way that these teams have been coached this year, I definitely think Otzelberger's got an argument. Definitely think Mark Adams and Scott Drew have an argument. It's going to be Mark Adams, but really, I think the conversation between Mark Adams and Otzelberger is definitely one that I'm willing to have. And if Iowa State fans out there think that TJ Otzelberger's got the real legitimate argument, I'm not here to poo-poo that, just because I know they're sub 500, but the totality of their work, especially once again in quadrant 1 games, it speaks for itself at this point in time. All right, also in the conference this weekend, Texas gets a important win, in my opinion, on the road against West Virginia, 82-81. This is one of those kind of shootout-y games that we're used to seeing sometimes. West Virginia's 14-15. They're 3-13 in conference. Things just fell apart for them pretty quickly. But I will say this: Malik Curry looks like he could be a piece that hopefully they can hang on to Malik Curry. He is a senior. I think he still has one more year of eligibility left, but he had an awesome night, and his bench scoring is something that West Virginia hopefully will need next season. If they can keep him around. But this was a game Texas really needed to have to show that they're still improving. They're still getting better. Kind of pressed up against it on the road. And Timmy Allen goes for 26 and 10, the result they needed. Marcus Carr, too. I know 26 and 10 for Timmy Allen's great. Marcus Carr, 6 for 6, 15 points, still no assists. I'm still not sure if he should be the guy running the offense, but an efficient day for him. Texas shot at a 63% clip, 8 for 16 from 3, and 73% from the line. West Virginia was 25 for 50, 6 for 12 from the three-point line, and they were 71% from the free throw line. This was a well-played offensive game in terms of shooting. Texas did have 16 turnovers, but this was a result, once again, I think it was important for them to get. Shows they're still developing, shows they're still growing, they're still getting better, showed some mettle, showed some moxie, which they're going to need to have. I'm not sold in this team right now, but this could be a step in the right direction towards the back end. Try to give it away, helter-skelter late, but they get this thing done. One final result between two teams that probably, we know one won't be in the NCAA tournament, and Oklahoma's going to need to make some things happen to get in. But still, an awesome, fun game at 11 a.m. Central Time on CBS. Oklahoma 66, Oklahoma State 62 in overtime. This showed the resiliency, the fight that both of these clubs have. Not giving up despite some bad circumstances, things not going their way this year. This was a game where Oklahoma finally got that balance. 5 different guys go in double figures for them in this game across the board. And for Oklahoma State, I thought Avery Anderson, another tremendous game. What a talent he is. Love the fight. Oklahoma was really up big, putting the clamps down second half. And then Oklahoma State goes on a big run. Baskets traded late, and Oklahoma gets the edge in overtime to win this round 2 of Bedlam. Both these teams split in the end. Tanner Groves, a couple free throws, separate it, and they get a steal in the end off Avery Anderson's steal. And then Marvin Johnson makes a layup late in this game to basically seal the victory for OU. So off the bubble for Oklahoma right now, but you're seeing the Big 12 tournament come up. They've got a chance, I think, just to get themselves on the right side of things. Wins against West Virginia coming up and at Kansas State would put them in a good spot in the tournament to, if they can make a run, make it 4 or 5 in a row, get themselves to, let's see, they're 15 and 14 right now. If they can get themselves, if they can win 4 straight and get it to 19 and 15, I think the argument is there, depending on who it is they beat in the Big 12 tournament. They're going to need to rack up a couple of nice scalps in the Big 12 tournament to get things done. That will do it for today's show. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at LOBig12. You guys can find us on YouTube. Make sure that you subscribe today. As always, my friends, until next time, stay safe.